give up, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up your day job.
Yes, people. Welcome to Don't Give Up Your Day Job, the podcast dedicated to honest, funny, and sometimes pretty darn deep takes on the different jobs people have had to do in pursuit of their dreams. With me, James.
And me, Joey.
AKA?
The Bone Brothers.
The Bone Brothers. Once again. Today...
Totally cheesy again.
Cheesy. But today we have an extra special guest in the studio, a man known to millions for his sports betting knowledge, regularly appearing on TV to deliver all manner of racing tips as Coral's PR man and ambassador. Never afraid to get stuck into a challenge, be it riding a horse himself at Cheltenham Festival or racing down the right wing alongside Joey Bone himself for the world-famous amateur football team Cheltenham FC. Ladies and gentlemen, Simon Clare.
Simon, good to see you, mate. It's been a while.
That was a great intro. I mean, listen, I'm in awe. I'm here with a couple of great celebrities. I'm just literally just reminding myself of the last scene in The Ice as you were desperately trying to shoot those targets and stuff. But
mate,
guys,
still be there. We will still be there now trying to do that. It's funny how life goes because I haven't seen you two. Might have seen each other a little bit more regularly. I haven't
Fleetingly, we've seen each other, haven't we? Here and there, parties, couple of parties we've been to,
but not
or
recently.
bars, but
Not recently.
I mean, in a few years.
I don't think I've seen you for 15
since
years.
I was probably
I think it was at your sister's. It was a birthday party, wasn't it? In Bar. What was that place?
That was mine.
That was your
Bar
birthday party.
Latina. That was my 21st.
That's how good friends are you with him? You can remember.
That was my 21st.
Well, it's a long time ago. Bar Latino's closed.
Yeah, that's
20. How long was 21st then?
21st. That's I'm 44 now.
So 23 years.
23 years ago.
I'll do the maths.
23
Yeah.
years ago.
That's your game after all, isn't it?
So I haven't seen you for a long time. I have seen you a lot more recently playing the Legends games at Carshalton and stuff like
Cool.
that.
It's a
I'm
funny
not
game.
sure we ever joined down the right wing together. You were always way back
I'm
centre back, kicking
I'm covering him. I'm covering him.
Hung over on the pitch. Yeah.
It's when he lost the ball after he'd beaten the same man about 15 times and the ball came back.
Yeah.
How long was it? Carshalton FC. It's a bit of a legendary club for our local.
It's a great club.
I stopped playing at 16, but we just managed to win the Tanger J League in the youth team. That was my peak football, so I decided to quit after.
Good side.
You were there for years, weren't you? You were down there.
I was. I mean, I've always loved it. Funny, when we come to sort of horse racing, talking about it later, I had no interest in racing. I was always a football fan from a very young age, almost from the first, memories, like being a 7-year-old kicking the ball around and then played for school and. A friend of ours, a guy called Dave Patterson, you know well.
Good friend, good man. Shout out, Dave.
Yeah, shout out Dave Patterson. Hopefully I'll make sure he tunes in and watches this. But he was always the ringleader. He set up a football team called the Newington Butts, which played at Charlton Park on a Sunday when we were 18. Yeah. And we were all 18-year-olds. We playing on a Sunday morning against these big, tough, 30-year-old footballers who were all still hungover from the night before. And we were the little young lads getting booted up in the air with no protection.
Remember those days? That's why I stopped. So
that's exactly why I thought, I just don't want to be doing this anymore at 9:30 in the morning. And then at one point we were playing in a church league with another friend of ours, Jason Locke.
I remember this, Shout out Jason.
Shout out Jason. And it was genuine. Listen, they were a really lovely bunch of guys, but it was a church league. So the referees were religious men and all the players went to church. And so you weren't allowed to swear or blaspheme on the pitch.
I'll tell you what, some of them Carshalton FC players.
So if you got booted, your natural reaction would be like, swear. And then I started thinking, I'll say, oh, Jesus Christ. No, that's even worse. And we generally did say a prayer before the game, which is wonderful. I mean, it never seemed to help much, but I mean, someone would say, would you say the prayer this way? So I just decided, I need to find a proper football club. Abandoned Dave Patterson. It wasn't doing me any good. And somebody put me into Carshalton FC. And the rest was history. They all then joined, Jason, Dave. All my mates came and joined the club. I made a great load of new friends like yourself, Wiggy, Fash, all these characters.
I mean, for an amateur club, it had some really, really top
good
players, didn't it? We had played at some fantastic grounds, a lot of the Bank of England ground. I mean, it was superb.
We were saying before as well, just before we came on air, there was well over 100 people down there playing football on the weekend, weren't they? The clubs get smaller, but I think from a community point of view, everyone getting together.
It's changed a lot. I mean, because that's right. I mean, there were 8 sides on a Saturday back then. This is Carshalton playing at Beddington Park. Southern Amateur League, amateur football. We always paid to play £10 a game, which probably been a bit cheaper back then, £5 a game, against all the bank grounds, etc. But the first team, which I was lucky enough to play in, played in a couple of cups against semi-pro sides like Red Hill, Epsom,
Bromley. I think we played against Carshalton Athletic. We played against,
and we used to compete quite well. So I always used to say, it was the highest level of amateur football you could play. without it getting too serious, having to train every week and travel a lot. And so, mind you, we did a fair bit of
travel,
travel.
it's always North London.
I remember my dad was managing this. I was like 7 being dragged up to Winchmore Hill all the time.
But that's it. And actually, you know, again, it's easy. Like, and you realise you're getting old when you say, God, it used to be so much better in the old days.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'd go into that club after the games, and obviously with 8 sides, there was a lot of lads. There was all the old guys, like your dad, your dad's mates, you know, the older characters who used to play for the club. They'd all be, we used to call them the old riggers in the corner, didn't we? Bless them,
the old farts.
giving us their advice, you know. and it was a social life. We'd drive up there at 4 o'clock, 4:30. You'd be there till 7, then you'd go into Croydon, often with your football bag over your shoulder, check it into the cloakroom, and you'd be out to the early hours.
God,
I mean, to be honest with you, there was nights when I didn't leave the clubhouse till early hours.
Well,
it was a few late ones down there.
Bit cheaper beer then as well.
Yeah, it certainly was.
No. Well, mate, great days, and thanks so much for coming on today. It has been a bit of a roundabout turn that we found ourselves on a TV show, but you've been flying for a good number of years now. Like, obviously, many people in the UK, but I guess around the world, that might have seen you online, they'll know you for your sports expertise and helping people win a lot of money. Hopefully not losing too much. But where did your interest, I guess, in racing, or you obviously had a sports background anyway, where did it all sort of kick off? You went to uni back in the day and stuff. What was your sort of story?
I mean, I think like a lot of lads, you know, I was a bit of a sports billy. I mean, I wasn't never brilliant at any of them, but I liked them all. You know, I played cricket in the summer, football in the winter. Rugby was too tough for me. But I played,
you ain't got the physique for that.
I never did. Yeah, probably starting to put on a bit. I tried my hand at snooker, darts, you know, golf, everything. Literally, but the one sport I never really had interest in was horse racing, because I grew up in South London. You know, like normal sort of middle class family. Yeah. And in fact, you know, back in the day, there'll be lots of people who won't know this, but like back in the day when Grandstand was on, if you used to watch Grandstand,
I remember that.
There'd be an hour of horse racing before Football Focus, and it was always the really boring bit with Peter Sullivan calling a 4-runner race from Hayden. Oh, come on, get on with it, you know. So that was my memory of it. And then, and weirdly, name check him again, I owe him a lot. Dave Patterson. Yeah. That was back in the day when you could leave school at 16 and get a job. You can't really do that anymore, can you? But he joined NatWest Bank at 16. And of course, at lunchtime, they used to go down to the betting shop, you know, illegally, of course, under 18. But when I turned 18, because I'm a law-abiding citizen, it was my year off. It was just left school, and he said, "Oh, should we pop up the bookies?" I'd never literally walked into a betting shop before. You know, it was like because there was all blacked out doors and windows. You couldn't see into betting shops.
They were sort of like a pawn shop.
Loads of smoke coming out.
And you had if the door was open, it had to have the beads down. Anyway, so I went in there, and of course, Patsy ran around, and Dave Patterson ran around placing bets on the dogs and horses. And it's one of those things, it just shows you the sort of freaks of sliding doors nature of life. He happened to win, like he'd back a dog, it'd win, he won 10 quid, and then he had back to horse. And I was thinking, this is brilliant. How exciting is this? You know? And so, of course, then me and him started to go down the bookies every Saturday, you know, sometimes missing football, and we'd go down and place our bets, or we'd spend the afternoon in the bookies, went racing for the first time to Kempton for the King George, saw Desert Orchid win. So these are like sort of those early memories when it was all really magical. And that was when betting, there's no one like, mate, this is before internet betting.
It's a different world, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, just betting shops, you know. And so I just kind of got really into it. So when I went off to university, I was just really into betting, you know, but really small amounts because I didn't have any money. I was a student. So I bet 50p's and pounds max, you know, buying a Racing Post instead of a Telegraph.
I was going to say, did you find yourself, obviously, like everywhere, I'll have a little bet, a football accumulator, did you find yourself, like, all quite early on getting into studying the form, like that sort of stuff, really getting in tune with it?
That's why sort of horse racing became sort of the betting was, you know, trying to win money by sort of really understanding the trainers, the jockeys, the form and stuff. And I was an oddball. I mean, like, I'm probably a bit not disciplined now. I mean, it's a niche sport. So, of course, amongst all my peer group at Liverpool University, you know, there was hardly anyone else who spent any time in betting shops and knew anything about horse racing. So I was the weirdo with the Racing Post under my arm. You know, I mean, it was something, I sort of like notoriety almost. But it was, you know, I got really into it. And actually, but I always know that, again, sliding doors, nature of life. I had no idea what I was going to do as a job.
What did you study at uni?
Politics.
Right. Okay, yeah.
And I've always been a cruiser, so I chose that degree because I knew it wouldn't be hard. You know, it was literally 6 hours.
No, that feeling.
There's no right or wrong answer, is there?
Anyone who's ever done English literature.
It's an opinion, isn't it?
Yeah. So it meant
little
that
tip there for anyone who wants to go to university.
English literature or politics.
Did you did
English lit. 9 hours a week.
Yeah.
Made about 5 of them.
So basically, most of it was just writing up every term you have to write a good assignment or something, didn't you? And then study like hard for the
that's
exams.
it. Yeah.
And my daughter now, actually, she doesn't know what to do. I said, you've got to go to university. It's 3 years, great way to spend, you know. And she's going to do zoology because she knows it's tick, it's one she'd be interested in.
Yeah, brilliant.
And that's and I said, work out what you're going to do, and that was exactly it. So I another friend of mine's dad ran Gallup Poll, which again older viewers will remember used to be the top 40 by Gallup Poll. It was a market research company,
Right.
and we used to do a lot of interviewing, door-to-door interviewing and stuff. Moonlight, in the summer holidays. So I don't in my mind thought, oh well, maybe I'll go and do some market research or work for a market research company.
Yeah.
But it was only because I was buying the Racing Post I saw this little advert, which was an advert for a graduate scheme for university students who might want a career in horse racing.
Wow.
Quality.
Yeah,
brilliant.
So if I hadn't been buying the Racing Post, I would never even imagine there were jobs in horse racing because, of course, at the front value, you just think, oh, there's trainers, jockeys, and horses.
Yeah.
But of
Closed
course-
book sort of thing.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
but of course, there's a huge business with marketing people, accounts people,
Huge
operations
business, yeah.
people, whatever,
Full industry.
HR,
Yeah,
So and so that's how I got on that graduate scheme, and that kind of was my little gateway.
So
to-
all those misspent hours
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
betting shop really did work out. Didn't
Yeah.
they?
And in reality, the actual degree is secondary to what you know about the game.
Well,
like,
I think that's the other thing. Like, if you know you want to be a lawyer, you do a law degree. If you want to be, if you want to be a history teacher, you do a history, or whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, I think most of the people I've interviewed, lots and lots of people for lots of jobs at Coral. You see they've got a degree, and it doesn't matter what subject it is. You just go tick. They've
Yeah.
spent
They've
3 years.
dedicated
Yeah.
themselves to a
But you're
student,
much
yeah.
more interested. You're actually the thing you tend to be drawn to is the interests. So what have they done? Like what sports do they do? What extra stuff they've kind of got interested in, theatre, music, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Because that's the stuff. And then what do they? How do they talk to you? In the
Yeah.
interview, and it's so important. Communication skills.
personable, and
Yeah.
being
Of
able
course
to-
it is,
It's a
yeah.
good, no, it's a good tip for anyone who is listening who's that sort of age as well.
Yeah.
Bear that in mind. So what was that? What was that graduate scheme for? Was that for the jockey club?
Yeah, it was with Jockey Club,
Yeah,
yes. So they basically took about 12 people, and I spent 2 weeks at a course in the British Racing School, which is a school in Newmarket, and you have loads of lectures and stuff from all sorts of people, trainers and people who work in the governing bodies and marketing at the race courses. And then I was spent 8 weeks on a sort of summer placement with them. It was the Levy Board, which is the sport, the body that funds racing. But they happened to own Sandown, Kempton, and Epsom race course at the
right,
time.
yeah.
So basically, I spent 8 weeks at the race course.
So when you
All
were
round
going,
trackside,
when you
like.
were
Yeah,
going,
yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
when you were going into that, did you have like any? Because come out of uni, go your first job, you're sort of in at the deep end. You don't. Did you have any idea like what you'd be getting into? Or you just thought, bang,
No,
I'm in.
Just give it a go. Yeah.
I had no idea because then little memories. They then decided that they were going to give one person a year's graduate traineeship at the Jockey Club in Portman Square by Selfridge, up off Oxford Street, and I got that job. It was £12,000 a
brilliant.
year. 1992, I got that job, and I turned up, and they gave me a little office, and they sat me down. And I said, "What am I going to do?" They said, "Right, we're going to work out what we're going to work out what
What
you
to do
do."
with you.
I had nothing to do. I literally sat there with this empty desk, the ultimate clean desk policy. Do you know what I mean? And then I think I've got to win one project, so I had like one folder with my Pad A4. I mean, honestly,
Best
but
job
it's
in the world,
brilliant
mate.
fun, but then gradually you kind of got involved in stuff, and it was just brilliant fun. Man, that first, and that's what I always remember those early days. It's where I met my future wife, now ex-wife.
yeah.
But those first few years of working in an office. Are brilliant fun for young people. So you have a great social life. But you don't really take work too seriously. Do enough to get by.
But I bet your old friend Wiggy. I worked with Wiggy
Oh,
in the
you
meeting.
did? No,
Just down the road from Portman Square, wasn't it?
So I can
The
vouch
office.
for that. I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
The work was definitely secondary to the 3 nights out.
Yeah, and then you think of like the COVID generation. So many people work from home now that actually it's I think when I was told I had to work from home during COVID. I'm in my early 50s, and it's
Looking good on it. Looking good on it.
I thought this is great. I can be around my kids more. I'd have to commute. This would be great. But I think anyone from the age of sort of 20 to 25, it's a real miss.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. You've lived
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
I work
you
from home a
did.
lot now. I don't mind as well. But I do
You
think
remember when,
from a social point of view, if you're coming out of uni, and if you've had that experience, and then first job going into London all the time, hanging out with it's a
fun.
great
It is.
crack,
It's
isn't it?
just. I mean,
It's
like,
crazy,
obviously, I
isn't it?
didn't work in an office. I was on building site or working as an
Yeah.
apprentice. But it's the same
Yeah,
thing,
you're free.
The
Yeah,
crack
yeah,
that was
yeah.
on the job,
Yeah.
and then
Then
in
the
the pub
evenings,
afterwards and all that, and it was like great. I mean, that's why I left school at 16. I
Yeah.
couldn't wait to get out of there. You know what I mean? And it was just just get out of
Liberation,
work.
isn't it?
I
You
feel
feel
like
like
I'm growing
you've
up.
got enough money to have some fun with. At the time, probably not enough to sort of buy a house or anything. But
No, of course not.
but
Well, as long as you get enough money to buy a pint, that's all you care about, isn't it?
you're probably living at home then, were you?
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. They probably did. They probably did charge you rent, did they?
Well, yeah,
My mum
my
tried
mum
to,
tried
but I
to.
was-
It's
but-
very harsh
yeah.
when parents charge young people rent. There's messages to that. They've got to be allowed to save their money and spend it.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So how long were you at the Jockey Club? So 4
So
years?
yeah, so I joined them and had. I mean, without getting into the detail, which would be a bit boring, the Jockey Club ran racing, but they decided because they were a sort of an unelected gentleman's club that they would create a democratic body to run the sport called the British Horse Racing Board.
Right.
And I was literally this kind of young paid executive sitting there doing probably some reasonably okay, admin work. And they said, we don't have any staff for the new body, which was literally the floor above. So can you go and work for them? So I literally sort of just went upstairs.
Yeah.
Joined them. I worked there for 3 years, and all along, funny enough, I started to work out that actually this was great. I was in racing, and I'd always watched on TV that when you're watching Channel 4 racing at the time, BBC Racing were covering it. There were these bookies PR men who would wander around and be interviewed on the telly. So they kind of were like little famous people.
Yeah.
And they were always handing out the odds for this horse has just won the trial for the Derby. It's 10-1 with Ladbrokes or with Hills. Back then it was only really Ladbrokes, William Hill, Coral, and the Totes. There were only really four. It was pre-internet. And they just, Mike Dillon, David Hood, Rob Hartnett, I can't remember the tote guy, and they were just
Like cult figures,
They
isn't
were,
they? Yeah,
and of course they had the
yeah.
best job. They were always at the race course. They were travelling to the Breeders' Cup in America and the Arc in Paris, and so I just thought I want to get into that line of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
And I mean, honestly, this is going to sound like I literally am the luckiest man alive. My Mel, who you know, my ex-wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. She got made redundant from the BHB, which is really tricky because she obviously was made redundant. She was gutted about that. She loved her job, and I'm still working there. I'm going out with her, and she's like going. So of course, coming home to meet her, we weren't talking work.
That's where your politics degree came in.
That's right, about the man-manager relationship stuff really kicked in, But so it was really tricky. So it was a really awkward period because I couldn't, say I had a good day at work because she hated the place by the stage.
Yeah,
She
of
thought
course
they were
she did.
all, gits. And but she had got a freelance job at Ladbrokes in London, like just literally down the road from where I was working. And there was a job advert for the PR manager for Ladbrokes, just to sort of, in their head office. And I sort of thinking, maybe I'll apply for that. And at the last minute, I decided to, and I actually gave my application to her, and she posted it in the internal
brilliant.
mail.
Yeah.
So it kind of
It's
got
not what you know, it's who you know. Still.
which says a lot about how I leave everything to the last minute. So I could have just used the post like everyone else, but and that got in, got interviewed, got that job, and then I was at Ladbrokes working in PR. And there was a racing guy doing PR, so I wasn't doing racing. So I was given all the fun stuff like the odds, the odds on a White Christmas, Eurovision Song Contest, politics, all that sort of fun nonsense. Literally at that point, no one really does it anymore. But the media loved odds on. What are the odds on, the Loch Ness Monster being discovered or aliens coming to Earth?
Yeah. Quick way for the guys to make a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
And you get loads
Quick
of
way for the
coverage.
bookies just to smash it.
And actually, guys, really funny when I look back. There's never a white Christmas in Britain, right? Genuinely, it's very, very rare the snow actually falls on Christmas Day. And yet, I only did that job for like 9 months. And that Christmas, it snowed on Christmas Day. I mean, like literally, so I woke up on
Did you have a
Christmas Day.
fiver on it, Sol?
No, it meant I had to work, but it was exciting. So I still woke up on Christmas Day. And there were people ringing my mobile saying, "Hi, it's blah blah from the Sun. We hear that it snowed. What is this cost you fortunes?" And in fact, I was with all my family in Beckenham, so I've sort of got a big family of 6 brothers and sisters, and we were all weirdly travelling to Oxford to have Christmas dinner in a restaurant, which we normally wouldn't do. We'd normally eat at home. And so I had to stop off in London and do some TV interviews on the roof of the Met Office in London.
Brilliant.
Literally sort of short, all about the fact that it snowed on Christmas Day. So again, little things like that. I think I've still got those tapes somewhere. They're really
Quirky.
great moments.
Yeah.
You sort of suddenly were in
You'll
the
have to
front,
dig them out and stick them on the old socials,
tell you
mate.
I was a lot thinner
And
there.
if you've got any tips about a future White Christmas, let us know.
Doesn't happen.
So look, when you moved into that PR job, was that obviously you're doing a lot behind the scenes as well? But is part of that role you're immediately become a visible person in terms of like you're on camera, you're on the radio and stuff like that? Is that where you sort of began your front-facing career? If you like?
Definitely. I mean, the great thing is because public relations is a brilliant line of work. Like, so if anybody fancies it, it's a great line of work. But an awful lot of it is done behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, most
It's all
companies.
about the prep.
Yeah, and most of the companies, most normal companies. the people who sort of are doing all the interviews tend to be a managing director or a CEO, and the PR people are the ones almost writing their scripts for them, or advising them, or media training them, or preparing their answers. So that, and they'd be sending press releases out to the media. It's just the bookies for betting companies because there's so much interest in what the odds are on almost anything. Whether it's the football or whatever. That there's TV. The PR men become TV, personalities, or radio personalities. Yeah. And so that's
specialist as well, isn't it?
Exactly. So they want someone to come on air and tell people what the odds are, I've got an ego. My dad did a lot of radio, TV, and I always loved that. I loved the fact that he was recognised sometimes in the street when I was with him and stuff. And
Same with us with our granddad.
Absolutely.
It's nice. It's nice to be.
You become, you get an understanding of it. For sure.
I mean, because I met Windsor Davis. He's an amazing man, and that was at the same. The same.
Well,
we only met each other once, haven't we? That one birthday party.
My sister's one, was that?
Yeah, his sister's. Yeah,
obviously a legendary birthday.
I can never remember.
I don't remember a lot about it, if I'm honest.
But I'll always remember meeting Windsor Davis because obviously, for viewers, Ain't Our Hot Mum was absolutely unbelievably brilliant. And of course, it couldn't happen in this day and age just because of the way it was constructed.
No, exactly.
But it was of its age and it was brilliant. It was a really good comedy, and your granddad was a legend. And
thank you very much.
But you would have seen that because I think there is a bit of that. I think when you see look, it's not all good. We know with celebrities it can be an absolute nightmare being recognised and stuff. But that's I suppose if you're really, really famous. But if you just sort of you're known for doing something quite well,
and you take it as it comes, kind of.
Being real to people, I
think probably when there's like a sort of media career, it is fun. There's a fun element to it, definitely. Our granddad kind of. Older man by the time we were growing up, but he was a boy at heart. So you just like
he loved his sport. Coming from Wales, he massive rugby fan. Liked a beer or a whiskey or two.
All three. If you like messing about a little bit, and you never you always maintain that. I think.
He was never serious, was he?
No.
He was never serious.
That's a good way to be.
us, but our mum and our aunties and uncle would be like, he was strict when he was at home, because a lot of time, in his peak of his fame, he was away a lot, But they were like, he was strict. He was strict, but then he would start laughing when he couldn't hold it for too long.
But I do think, obviously going back to with your own media career. Like, did it come naturally to you quite quickly? Because you've obviously built up a lot of specialist knowledge, but you are a natural when you're on camera, and not everyone has that.
No, funny if I can remember doing the first sort of radio interviews and stuff, and being incredibly nervous and not probably doing very well. And I think that's the point. It's always going to be nerve-wracking at the start.
Throw yourself in.
It's just about learning it, isn't it? And I think you learn little tricks, and preparing is an important one. They always say, like, if you're going to go on TV or radio or anything, have sort of 3 messages you want to get across. And stick to it and make sure, a bit like politicians do, they do it too much. They just only ever say those 3 messages.
Then they get stuck when they get asked to be themselves.
And then, and I think, little things like, which I'm not very good at, I speak too quickly, but, taking your time. Sometimes I'm a fast talker, and sometimes my voice, I speak quicker than my brain can think, whereas, it's quite good to slow down.
Especially in this day and age, mate.
That's for sure. But so I learned it. But then don't get me wrong, there are still lots of times I've been poor. Even Talksport radio, Talksport's something. But there'll be days you come off and go, God, I was rubbish there. And it's really hard. It's like any sort of performance. There's. You do need my dad always said, my dad was a psychiatrist, did a lot of radio and TV. Professor Simon Clare, still find some of those radio interviews.
I never knew that. I had no idea. I never knew that. I'll check that out. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, he was. He did in the psychiatrist
Radio 4?
Was it Radio 4? In the psychiatrist show, interviewed some really interesting people. Probably most notably back at the time when he was just a very popular presenter, Jimmy Savile. And so of course, actually, my dad died.
Topical.
Dad died 16 years ago, but obviously when the whole Jimmy Savile stuff came up, a lot of the people were repeating that interview because it was a strange interview. My dad even came out of it saying, "God, that is a very strange man."
But
little did we know.
Our granddad knew him from the BBC. I remember, and he was like, "Nah, my kids would never come into the studio." But
our granddad had 4 daughters, so they didn't go to the top of the pop.
But moving on from that.
God, let's not bring this down. But so I think. I can't remember how we got into that, but it's something I've always enjoyed. The attention. But so my dad always said, he said, it's you want to feel nervous before you do this sort of stuff. He said, obviously you don't want to get so nervous it constrains you, but he said the worst days are when you go on, you're not nervous at all. He goes, because if you're kind of flat or you're just complacent, that's when you almost need that kind of
adrenaline.
Yeah,
you
do.
need that adrenaline.
Those little butterflies and those nerves and what propels you to actually deliver.
The boxer will say that, they're nervous, they're confident in their ability. Of course they are,
but they've got to be on edge.
But they're on edge because that adrenaline will kickstart you into it. Yeah.
Focus. So you were at Ladbrokes at that point, but did you move over to? You got headhunted by Coral because that's kind of how you really.
I did. Ladbrokes was great. Ladbrokes was. It's mad again. Formative years. That I can sort of remember the 9 months I had at Ladbrokes better than almost any period since because it was just so fresh and new. And then I got a call that the guy from Coral was moving on, Rob Hartnett, who I still know now, and he was going to the Totes. There was a gap. And the MD then, a guy called Trevor Beaumont, obviously thought, God, I don't have to have an interview process with loads of people. So he asked people around, does anyone know anyone who could do this job? And a journalist called Graham Rock, the late Graham Rock, said, well, I met this guy, Simon Clare, at Ladbrokes. He's quite young, but I think he's impressed me. So I got contacted, met this MD, Trevor Beaumont, in a hotel, where I went in, sit down, think, I've got a real shot at this. And he basically spent 20 minutes telling me what an amazing job this was. You go all around the country racing, you'll go to America, you go to France, so there we go. What do you think? And I said, well, do you want to know anything about me? And he went, don't you worry, I know everything about you. So I went, all right, I'll take the job then. But basically, it only transpired as I got to know him and stuff. And it's funny, again, it's like a lesson in many ways what we're talking about. Those sort of opportunities will present themselves because people would always rather just find someone for a job than go through a 3-month interview process. It's terrible.
But you've obviously done the groundwork. You've built
made an
yourself
impression
up
on someone. That's right. I think again, it's sort of life lessons. Again, with you make your own luck a little bit by if you're always conduct yourself well with everyone around you. You never know. Even my ex-wife Mel keeps getting jobs from people she meets in her gym. Literally, she's suddenly working for them because she's had a cough with them. And they said, "Oh, really? You're looking for a job?" You cannot imagine.
Unless there's brain surgery, which requires
you don't get that from having a beer down the pub.
And then I think for the large majority of people, you've obviously built up your knowledge and skills as you go. But it's a people. It's all about people.
The rapport you build with people certainly gets
It'll pay back somewhere. You never know where. Exactly from a recommendation or tip. And so that's really how I got it. And then once I was in the Coral job, I was literally I've been there 26 years. So there's all sorts of changes along the way. But that was when it was.
Once you got into Coral, did it feel like this is the opportunities are obviously there? You're able to build up and
I was just buzzing. I was just going racing.
Great life.
Yeah,
you must have fucking been a jackpot.
It certainly seems like obviously when we were playing football, you was at Coral then, and I've watched your career over the years and. It's just gone up and up and up, and the people that you've met that we'll touch on, in the next bit. But it's fantastic. Like I say, it's the best life ever.
And it was a trade-off.
Something you're doing that you love.
Funny if you mentioned the thing that you forget though, I suppose, is that I was. From the age of teens through to then, I was playing cricket every Saturday and Sunday, and then football every Saturday and Sunday, or Saturday mainly with Carl Shorten with you guys. But once I got that job, because it involved racing pretty much every Saturday, if not every other Saturday, I did actually effectively have to accept that I couldn't do that kind of football social life. So I would then turn up every now and then and play because it was a day I wasn't working. But so I always look back, and that was the only thing. Like everything, there's a bit of a trade-off. You can't have everything, and I did. I never had a full season of football really.
No, I remember that.
And so I was envious of that.
Still nicked a few goals though, if I remember rightly.
It sounds great. So you kicked off at Coral, and then you're just thrown in at the deep end. I guess,
you are really. Yeah, that's right. And you sort of, basically the rhythm was I'd come in a car, I'd go to all the race meetings. So I think I started in May, and it was like the sort of Chester week. Then there was York, Goodwood. Then you go into the Derby at Epsom, Top Hat and Tails. Royal Ascot, Top Hat and Tails, and then rolls all the way through. Then the jump season, and he goes all the way through to Cheltenham, Grand National, plus the Arc in Paris in October.
Wow!
And the best one, really, the one I love most, is every November. It's the Breeders' Cup in America. Because the best English and French and Irish horses travel over, take on the Americans in America, and it would move around from state to state. So, of course, whereas all the other race meetings, Epsom's always in Epsom and Grand National's always in Liverpool. Because of that, over the last 26 years, I've been able to go to Belmont, New York, Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, Lone Star Dallas, Chicago,
that's
brilliant.
nice.
and the best one of all, San Trinic and Del Mar in Los Angeles. And I love that, and that's a great race meeting. And so that was almost like, and that's why the job was just it followed that same calendar from right the way through in terms of following the racing, and that was that's always been the kind of the case for the last 26 years.
And you've moved around different sports, haven't you? Like you've done plenty of other bits. You mentioned about the Formula One.
Yeah,
before.
I did. I mean, so it's funny how you transition through sort of the technological innovations, because then of course the internet arrives. There's people there watching. What the hell are you talking about? It's always been there, But it did. Literally, I mean, we were faxing press releases to newspapers when I first got the job in '97.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, you had computers and you could email them. That was like, wow. And then of course the internet grew, and then of course that meant that instead of only having the odds that were offered in a betting shop and on a coupon, suddenly bookmakers could open. You could literally bet on everything.
Yeah,
literally a
and
huge
make
range
it
of
up
sports.
as they go along.
Yeah,
Sort of thing,
exactly.
really,
Yeah, definitely.
Did you see like a massive? Because it feels like now betting is big. It's just more. Just people access it from your your hardcore, gamblers, if you like, to your people like me, really, or an
Casual, a little accumulator on a Saturday morning.
At home, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, even now, there's a hell of a lot of people, especially young people, who never go in a betting shop and still feel intimidated walking into a shop and having to look at, the fact that you just don't have to do that. It's on your mobile phone, your PC, and I mean, this is, and of course, this era in 2000 was still just it was just computers. Didn't even the idea. I remember. We actually because Coral hadn't got an internet betting firm and the others had, we bought one called Eurobet based in Woking, run by these Italians who were great fun. They were kind of all mavericks, a bit mad, And so I went over and shifted over to work for them in 1999 into 2000. And they were given loads of money to try and establish the brand because we were going to float the company. And I was the media director over there. So I sort of managed to get a reasonable pay rise at that point because, you don't get many opportunities to get a bit of jump, and I did. But still didn't really know what I was doing. And we were sponsored the Arrows Formula One team and, so, with Grand Prix. And all the top bosses got the really exciting gigs like to Malaysia and to America. Yeah. But saying that, I still went to, Austria, Germany, Manicourt in France. And actually, the best one we went to was the Monaco, and we were on a boat in Monaco.
That's the week of my birthday. I'm 40 in 3 years. I'm gonna. That's always a dream. I reckon.
You said you were going to go to the World Cup as well.
I'm doing that as well.
Yeah, about that. There's lots of dreams. You have more than one dream.
If the podcast kicks off, we're doing the lot.
I better do a few more Saturdays, I think, on the old overtime.
But that was great fun. I mean, I went to the Monaco Grand Prix, and I was never, Joel backed me up, I probably wasn't ever the most fashionable chap back in the early days. I think I'm more fashionable now. No, but weirdly, it's funny, later in life I got far more aware of, really spending money on nice clothes because they last longer and they look nicer. But I was, I suppose, I just wasn't very fashionable. So I went over to the Monaco, no idea what you wear at the Monaco Grand Prix. And I literally had some really bad chinos and a dark blue shirt or something, And of course it was baking hot. So I think I said, right, I'm going to have to pop into a shop. So I went to what must be the most expensive Tommy Hilfiger shop.
I don't think there's a cheap one there, so we're in Monaco, mate.
So I thought, what should I buy? So I bought this white shorts and a white polo shirt, thinking, that would look not quite nice.
Dangerous.
Yeah. Well, so then we get on this boat, right? And there's all these senior people on their blades and everything, and of course all the people serving the drinks are wearing white shorts and a white polo shirt. So I spent the whole afternoon with people going, "Get us a couple of glasses of champagne, would you like?" And the first going, "No, I'm a guest. I'm not the star." By the end of it, I was just going and getting glasses of champagne and giving it to them.
On the bright side, you made 500 quid in tips.
I've got to use that line next time. But yeah, so I kind of lived the dream a little bit. And the weirdest thing was that we had a year of doing that. There were lots of other things. We did MotoGP and Superbikes. We were Man United's betting partner. So I went to an away leg of the Champions League and stayed on the same plane as the football team with Ferguson and all the stars and everything. And Beckham and co. And so there was a Seve Ballesteros golf tournament which was set up to be the equivalent of the Ryder Cup, but just it was Great Britain versus Europe.
Right.
Yeah. And it was staged at Sunningdale. And so I was Eurobet sponsored it. And so I was there all 3 days. And at the end, when they hand out the trophy and there's always the sponsors stand up and sort of make this I had to do this. And I had to sort of say, I've got to congratulate Seve Ballesteros on this amazing vision because it was the inaugural one. Yeah. And again, I've got that on video somewhere. Because
as well,
And he took the camera panned to him and he raised his hand and thanked me for it.
Yeah.
And actually, the other thing is I got to play with Sergio Garcia in the Pro-Am that tournament, which was amazing. So that's one of my...
That's the thing, like these jobs, basically you're you say yes to things.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You get it. You see a little. You come out of uni. You weren't quite sure what you want to do, but you've just sort of gone through the ranks and all of these amazing experiences. When did the Talksport stuff kick off then?
The Talksport started around, I suppose about 2004 or something. One of the, somebody came along and recommended we do the breakfast show, and we did, and so we started. Maybe a bit later, 2004, 2005. And we did it for about 6 years. Then some marketing director made the terrible decision that we shouldn't do it anymore. We gave it up.
Was Talksport, was that the Talksport breakfast show sponsored by you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, so we said and so we gave it up 4 years to Betfred, and then they gave it up, and we managed to get it back, and we've had it ever since. So really, I've almost done Talksport for about 19 years with a 4-year break in the middle of it. Wow. And that is the best thing that we do and we've ever done.
Yeah, I mean the numbers that they do now as well is ridiculous, isn't it? I bet you've had some good times there and doing the Cheltenham week and all that.
Cheltenham box.
Because the thing is that we do it from home, which is funny. It's interesting how the first period doing the Talksport, the amount of times I'd kind of like be hungover and we have to be phoned. Somebody go, "You're supposed to be on Talksport." And it's weird. Like, I'm saying this all now, but I don't know what it was. Maybe I just wasn't as focused then. Whereas now, like when we sit the last 10 years, I plan it. You're ready. You're sitting there when the call comes in. It's on an ISDN line, and you put your headphones on. You just do it, and I love it. And but yeah, and then so I wouldn't be in the studio with them. Yeah. Bar the times that we then meet up and do the outside broadcast, like at the Cheltenham box or Royal Ascot and stuff. And but I've got to know. I mean, Alan Brazil, is a really good friend, and I think. I mean, I have to sometimes sell this internally when it comes up for renewal, and they say, "Is this a good deal or not?" And you sort of explain, look, it's not just it's a very good deal. The audience is perfect. They're all punters.
I mean,
it's getting bigger and bigger, isn't it?
Yeah,
for sure.
But actually, the fact that myself and my colleague Dave Stevens who does a great job, and John Hill, there's 3 of us who do it. We've built up really good relationships with the presenters, and so the chemistry on air. I like to think it doesn't sound like it's a paid-for slot. It sounds like
it actually doesn't. It sounds like you're in there. It's 3 or 4 mates, guys that are just having a laugh.
Yeah.
Getting all the info across, and I mean it's entertaining. Talksport's entertaining. Alan Brazil, Ali McCoy, Ray Parler, and yourself as well when you're on it. It is so smooth and funny, and
it's
that's
just
what people
having
want in the morning.
When you're talking about a podcast, even, but radio, it's like people invite you into their home. Essentially, it's just having that sort of affable nature. I've got to say, friends of mine who are like racing fanatics, when I said that you were coming in, it was like John. It was like John Lennon was coming in the studio.
I love that. That's I mean,
you've got a massive cult following.
yeah, big time.
Smaller, but I mean, bizarre as it sounds, right? I have been recognised by my voice before. Like somebody says, you on Simon Clare of Talksport, and they've heard my voice. Just like, and it's made it like the amount of times I can invite someone around to fix my fridge, or the guy comes down to check sort of a burglar alarm or something, and he walks in and he sort of sees the ISGN kit and he goes, it's really nice, but I love all that. I think it's a Talksport is it genuinely touches and reaches a hell of a lot of people.
I've got to say they've nailed it from the way they do all their different shows and stuff like that. They've the perfect example really of know your audience and just smash it.
And Brazil's really natural. I mean, I think sometimes you listen to some other shows and you still feel like it's a presenter doing a radio show. But I mean, Alan is just a Laura, he's unique, isn't he? He just comes on and just does it.
He's taken that on his own thing and turned it into like it's his baby, isn't it? I mean, he's amazing. He's brilliant.
It's amazing. I mean, most people would think of him as a Talksport radio. He was obviously a very good footballer.
Exactly.
I was literally about to say, like a little bit before my time. I've got to say, but
all right.
I'm only 22.
All right, I remember him well.
But he has, it's perfect example. I think he's just opened a second life for him.
And actually loves horse racing. He is a horse racing massive fan. He'd always rather talk about horse racing than football, which is always interesting. But he's brilliant fun. I've got to know him really well, and he's great fun. He's dangerous to go out with. Less so now. He's got a bit older and a bit wiser. I say that like a bit.
We can't move on without talking about some of your own crazy adventures that you've got yourself in. One of the last times I remember seeing you is this commitment to being the jockey at Cheltenham.
Yeah, you got to tell us that.
How did all that come around?
So I mean, I'd never ridden. So I'd always obviously loved horse racing, been interested in horse racing, but I'd never ridden a horse. I'd never even really thought about riding a horse. And then my daughter, I was very good friends with a trainer called Zoe Davison who passed away a few years ago, and she when Eloise literally was 3 or 4, we used to go down there, and she was really generous. We'd get Eloise on the ponies, her daughter's ponies, and we'd give her loads of lessons. And so Eloise got the bug and started to learn to ride and became very good at it. And so,
brilliant.
So that was just bubbling along. And then there was a charity race which used to take place at the Cheltenham Festival. So literally at Cheltenham, 4 days. And on the Thursday, the last race, it'd be a charity race for 12 people who'd signed up, raised money for Macmillan, and would race on a flat race on the last race of the day round the course.
Yeah.
And they'd be betting on it. The 65,000 people who'd been there for the day all stayed and watched it. And we sponsored a guy called Rishi Prasad, who's a TV broadcaster on ITV Racing.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
And Rishi rode in the race, and he had a coral logo. And I went down to the paddock beforehand to be with him before he jumped on the horse. And he'd never really ridden before, so I was thinking, this is incredible. And then you realise, I looked around, saw all the people watching around the paddock. We watched the race; the stands were full. I thought, what other sport would an amateur get the chance to play football at the Wembley in front of a full crowd,
exactly,
or cricket at Lords in front of a full crowd? I said, this is insanely cool. And so then I suddenly so I then spoke to him and said, if I committed to learning to ride, would I be accepted as one of the for next year's race? So I applied and they accepted me because in many ways, because I had the PR profile, and they knew I'd be able to write blogs in the Racing Post and
drive interest from the guy.
for sure. And so then I had to learn to ride. I was remember going. I never went football training at Cashel ever. I mean, ever in 20 years. But I went football training that September before, and Charlie Sinclair, our old mucker, was taking training, and so that was my first effort.
Driving us into the ground. Yeah.
No, I might have to do a bit more than this.
I actually there's a photograph that you're in the Talksport box, and you was getting your 6-pack out, Simon, if I remember rightly. You was next to Ray Parler, Alan Brazil, and you were giving it a little bit of the old showing the old
So I actually, and I've never been very good at sticking to that kind of regime, really, but because I had a goal, I actually gave up drinking, first time I've ever done that. Started riding a hell of a lot, just learning to ride. I literally started with like holding the reins, then sort of trotting.
It's nerve-wracking, isn't it?
Yeah,
when you're first on
And I did. I had to lose a lot of weight and build core strength. So I actually, Ryan Moore, the jockey, and his brothers Jamie and Josh and Hayley Moore, they all were using this thing called Insanity. The Insanity. Was it Sean T? Sean T, the 60-day challenge, and the DVDs.
So hard.
And because they said the great thing is they can just pop it on the TV, even if they're in a hotel like in Japan or somewhere riding, and they can do this workout, which builds core strength. So I got that, and I've still got it now. I still whop it on every now and then. It's really good. It really is. And so I got really fit and sort of, I mean, I wouldn't say ripped, but I had some form of...
You were all right.
Top was coming off more often.
There was a bit of definition. And actually, I mean, again, it was the best thing I ever did in my life. This is probably the thing I was proudest of, because even within racing, I'd worked in 20 years, and so I was well known amongst punters and stuff, but there were still loads of trainers and jockeys who would still look at me and just think I'm just some bookie chap, And so once I started doing this, I suddenly got requests from trainers that I didn't really know saying, why don't you come down and ride out at my stables? And they all thought what I was doing was amazing. And so I would turn up at Charlie Longsdon's and Tim Vaughan's and Oliver Sherwood's and all these different trainers and just go and ride out, and they'd lob me on a horse. They'd always make sense, put you on a sensible horse, not a lunatic. And I would then, and I'd almost, ride out. And loads of memories of riding with other jockeys. I went to Kempton Park and rode round the actual race course for.
And it's all this over the course of a year. Like, is this like from that Cheltenham to the following?
Well, I first sat on a horse at the end of September, so say 1st of October. And I rode in the race in March. So it was 6 months from So January and February, when I was going, I'd learned how to ride enough. And all I had to do was basically have balance, be able to ride, quick, not fall off, I mean, and so I didn't have great technical skills. I wouldn't win a dressage competition or anything, but I could definitely,
get from A to B.
And so, yes, I had loads of fun and met, rode around Kempton with Richard Johnson and Tom Cannon and Alan Johns and sort of the professional jockeys. And then eventually rode in the race. And how
did we get on?
Well, I mean, the other thing I'd say is like my daughter, that was an example where my daughter was incredibly proud because she was riding, suddenly seeing her dad riding.
Yeah, fantastic.
And they both got the day of school, came down to Cheltenham. And on the day, I was so gaunt. There are photos of me because it was like, you think of people like AP McCoy. Like I'd got down to 11 stone 2. I'm now like 14 stone, but I was really tight because I had to ride at 12 stone. And the race before our race was an amateur riders race, and some person had fallen off the top of the hill, and they actually, what a dangerous sport it is. They had an air ambulance to come to. So of course, but it meant that it's getting dark, it's getting with delay, tension. Yeah, you can imagine. And actually, Martin Pipe and Peter Scudamore, very famous trainer and jockey combination, who were my heroes when I was first fell in love with racing in the late 80s. They came up to me, I got to know, they came up to me during the day and said, Simon, he goes, there's one thing you've got to remember in your race. He said, for God's sake, don't miss the start. Be ready at the start. It can all happen so quickly when the tapes go up and stuff. So, right, yeah, okay. And so, of course, there I am at the start. There's 60,000 people like making noise. There's the wind's blowing. It's getting dark. There's horses. There's all the other jockeys wandering around, sort of getting ready. And I was literally, genuinely froze. Tapes go up. And then suddenly I was sort of trying to kick my horse, but actually kind of so nervous, I'm hanging onto the reins. Eventually, bless him, the horse shoots up, and I'd give away 3 or 4 lengths, and I was like, what? And actually, all I remember was thinking, funny, I got very brave very quickly, thinking, sod this is embarrassing, I'm going to go for it. And the horse just fired through, and I remember going, it was like a computer game, there were a couple of horses galloping along, and my horse just went straight through this narrow gap. And instead of when normally I might have said, well, be careful there, I just went, he went charging through, know. And then
horse literally takes the lead.
Just to get, and I just thought, sorry, I've got to get, but I still can remember going all the way up the top of the hill at Cheltenham and coming sailing down and then up the straight. And at that point, I remember just thinking, like, try and push, try and look like Frankie Dettori.
Did you have your eyes shut?
You had your photo opportunity in mind there, didn't it?
I don't think it was the prettiest Frankie Dettori impression, but I actually passed a horse just for the post to finish 5th, and it was 12 runners. So I always say, I finished 5th. So I beat 6th. I beat 6, was beaten by 5. So I was 6th of 12. That's right. And
fair play to you,
and
mate.
then you come down the horse walk, and you come down the horse walk. It's a very famous horse walk with the stands to your left, and obviously the winners would all stand up. And we had a box of people up the top. I could hear them all cheering for me, and I sort of stood up in my stirrups and waved my whip.
Flying dismount, was there?
I didn't do it.
That's where the Frankie Dettori
story ended. But my daughter Eloise came up to me in the box. She goes, Dad, when you came past me up the run, and she goes, I was so proud I nearly cried.
That's
what you want, isn't it?
And she's riding now, is she?
She's really good. She's 18 now. God, that's mad. That was 2015.
That has made me feel old that she's 18.
She's
wow.
Oh my God, so she was 9 then.
Yeah.
And she's now eventing, and she's brilliant, and she's really committed. Total self-starter. Bought a horse box, a little sort of 3.5 ton Asda delivery thing with the horse on the back and the back. And we drive daddy-daughter time. The last few years has been taking her to events. She's found
a passion through you, and she's following it.
Oh, she's brilliant, and she's such a good rider, and she. She's lucky through. She's been to stables and she's ridden out at John Joe Neal's and at Tizards.
I've seen her on like your Insta and stuff.
Yeah,
riding
I'm so
out
proud of her. Yeah,
is it something she wants to pursue, like properly, or just go with the flow?
I think it'll be like for us, it was football and cricket, or whatever. I think it'll be her hobby because it's not an easy thing to make a living out of. It's not impossible, but I think. Ideally, I think it'd be something that I hope it's to her what we have. We have with football.
That's great.
Yeah. Si, it's been so great for you to come into that, mate. We really appreciate it. It's been really great to obviously you guys have known each other for many years, and we've known each other.
It's been brilliant.
It's great to get an insight into because we see you dotted up on the TV, but it's great to get an insight into the actual journey behind the scenes and how you end up coming in places.
But we've always at the end of like each ep, we always asked the question, like, obviously we were on Road to 1 Million. I chose James as my partner. So who would you decide to take up a mountain or try and win £1 million?
God, I'd probably do it with Eloise. I think maybe my daughter. I mean, I end up. I'm a single guy, so I haven't got a partner to take. Yeah. So if there's any prospective people out there,
Eloise sounds like quite a good option. Based on her,
she's great. I'd love to. I mean, Eloise. Yeah, she's been. I'm funny if I took her to the Breeders' Cup last year. She's a great sort of partner in crime. Really.
Fantastic.
So for the moment, I think listen, I'd love to do it. That's the sort of when I watched it, I was so envious of you two. I thought that must be the best.
You'd be great. I mean, it's so much. It was great, and it's put us where we are at the moment, and that, and
But you came across brilliantly on it. I was so proud of you both.
That's very kind of it, man. Yeah, no, it was a great experience, and it's been great to see you again.
Yeah,
I guess just before we finish, if anyone wants their racing tips and gets their experts, where's your social channels that people follow you? You're on X.
Yeah, I'm on X at Simon Clare on Twitter. On Instagram, I've got a private account, but if you want to follow me, but I think X is probably, I'm quite regular on X.
Yeah, follow that. Si, lovely to see you, mate. Thanks so much.
Cheers,
Simon,
guys.
thanks a lot, mate.
Wicked. Don't give up your day job with Simon Clare.
Don't give up your day job, guys.
Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Your day job.